All right, I think we're live. So I'm going to start off today by doing a few replay reviews. Um, I have two replay reviews lined up. So I'm just going to pull up the match IDs and get started. So I don't, so on this stream, like, I don't think I'll be playing any games. Um, I'll basically just finish these two replay reviews and come back later in the day and play a few games. Um, I do plan on playing a couple of ranked matches, um, and we'll also watch OG playing um, Alliance, I believe it is. Um, let me check. Anyways, let me pull up the match IDs first, and I can get started right away. Um, right. Okay. So who do we have here? We have match ID is 55398. Ends with 510. Okay. Um, okay, he was the juggernaut this game. Got it. Got it. Okay. So apparently in this game, um, he was the juggernaut. Excuse me. Um, so he's currently at Archon 2, um, in terms of ranking. And the notes that he left for me for this specific replay um, was that he was 5-0 going out of the laning phase, right? Um, and thought that it would be a relatively easy game. But his team kept running into their lineup and getting crushed. Fair enough. He also says that he tried to keep up calm and uh, felt pretty strong all game. but just wasn't able to get the win. That happens sometimes. Not all games, unfortunately, are winnable. Um, Even if you do try your best, even if you do play really well in the laning phase, some games are just unfortunately unavailable. Okay, cool. Let me just give a shout out to the guy before I start my stream in any case. All right. Okay, so let's just look at the lineup quickly, right? They have a Juggernaut who's playing safe, Tinker mid, Clock off lane, support Warlock, and a hard support Lion. On the enemy team, they have a Terrorblade, off-lane Legion, um, Co-op in the mid lane, support Veno, and a Treant hard support. I see.
My friends, I'm calling it. Prepare for battle.
All right. I might have to reduce the game audio slightly. That should be better. Um, all right. So this is a just to do a quick recap again. Um, this is a replay review of an Archon 2 player. He is currently playing Juggernaut this game, and said that he had a relatively easy um, laning phase. Um, he was apparently 5-0 in this game, going out of the laning phase, and thought that it would be a pretty easy game. But apparently his team kept running into their lineup and getting crushed. He did try to keep up his farm and felt pretty strong um, all game, but just wasn't able to get the win. All right, so I'm just gonna get straight into the replay review. In terms of starting items, he has picked up um, 6 tangos, a slipper of agility, 2 ironwood branches, and a quelling blade. He is laning with a lion. Cool. Um, and will probably be facing, um, I'm guessing, the Legion Commander, right? Legion and Veno. Cool. So I'm imagining there's going to be a decent amount of harassing that's going on in this lane. Um, all right, I'm gonna reduce the game sounds even further.
30 seconds to battle.
Um, just missed what just happened. Okay. So you're standing up ahead over here.
30
Um,
seconds to battle.
your enemy was able to place a ward over here. See. Okay. Not sure if you noticed that at any point. I see. Um, okay, so you do see a legion over there. Okay. Um, I hope you know that when you do see the enemy this early on, right before the bounty rune spawn, it usually indicates that um, either they are trying to gank you or they're trying to set up vision super early on. So in this case, like it seems like they've decided to um, block your small camp with an observer ward. Um, and I know this is your support's job, um, but if you see someone on the minimap doing something like this, you should immediately recognize either of these two things. Okay,
30 seconds
you
to
got the
battle.
trees, but you got one tree to get vision. Um, Lion is basically AFK. I don't know what he's doing. Lol. Did he just waste a salve? Oh my god, he did. Um, well, um, there's not much you could have done there, I guess. Your line was basically playing very passive. Yeah, I can see
Battle
that.
begins.
That's unfortunate. That's okay. Um, okay. So let's skip into the laning phase. I don't think that's a big deal. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so you do get harassed a little bit, mostly the line, because he is a lot weaker. Probably has less armor as well, right? Okay, so you decide to spin at this point. Your line might just die actually. Yeah. Mm. There's not much you can do about that. I do wish your line would play a little safer uh than he's playing right now. Ideally he could just use a tango, but there's like not much you can do. Maybe you can like communicate that um in your future games. I don't know if that's something that you did. You do want your support to be in the lane as much as you can like possibly have him. Um, um, but yeah, also like line like in this specific matchup is like really is really trash. I want to say. I see. Okay, Veno seems to have overextended himself, and you managed to get a kill. Got it. All right. So I mean, at this point, like, um, The main issue is that you guys s- uh are seeming to have a like pretty like rough laning phase. Just because the lion hasn't played as carefully as he should have. Um, I would have liked him to ideally be checking the small camp to kind of pull in the creep wave. Um, but like given the state of what's going on, it's a little difficult to expect that, I want to say. Um, okay, okay, so your line goes up ahead to place a ward. Cool. Yeah, so in terms of last hit, it does seem like your the Legion commander is doing slightly better. But that is to be expected. Um, given the fact that you guys are being harassed so much. Um, okay. Okay, you you get vision. The lion gets vision of the small camp and can see that um, there's no creeps that have spawned. So immediately, like him or you should recognize that the camp is blocked because there's an observer ward or a sentry ward that's placed. Um, I am hoping that your lion does pick up a sentry. Amazing. Cool. If I am being honest though, sorry, sorry, like my voice is it's just like waking up in the morning. Um, if I am being honest, um, I would have liked for you to be laning with Warlock this game, just given the fact that there's not much that the lion can do. Um, yes, he can help out a lot more in the later levels. But as you can see, so far into the laning phase, he's had a lot of difficulty just A, surviving himself, and B, also trying to help you improve the laning phase, like help you like last hit and like zone out the enemies. I do think that you guys would have had a better chance if it was Warlock that was in the lane instead of the Lion. Um, just because like he has that heal, right, and he also has fatal bonds that he can use to like spam if um you choose to harass the enemies. Um, so I do think that's something that you want to think of. Sometimes it can be difficult to like convince your teammates to come and lane with you. Um, but I do think that Clock is pretty tanky and doesn't really need to have Warlock to support him. Um, it is the safe laner in most cases that needs to be babysitted more than anything. Um, maybe your supports don't realize that, but if this is something that you can realize and like communicate that to them before the laning phase starts, it would put you in a much better position to succeed. Legion is above you in terms of CS, not by a lot, just by like 5 creeps. Um, but like every little thing counts. Yeah. Okay. Um, okay. So you seem to move back. I see. Okay. So you seem to be going back and basically like deeping back to your lane. I don't know if I'm a big fan of that. Um, I would have rather just had you ship in um a salve maybe. You could have still survived in the lane and used your tangos to kind of gain experience. But I see why you did that. Like you probably felt like it was a waste of time um to just sit sit in the lane and like gain experience. I think that's fair. Um, I do think that you could have preemptively shipped out a salve. Um, I also don't I also don't think that it's necessary for you in this specific lane to have gone for a magic stick. Um, it's different when you're laning against a bristleback, for example, and you know that the bristleback is going to be spamming his W, his quill spray. But in this case, like the Veno is probably just going to spam. Like I haven't seen Veno spam his venomous gale. And the cooldown on this is 21 seconds on the first level. Whereas same with press the attack, he is mostly going to use this like either defensively or offensively. And will most probably not be spamming it out like you would spam um, W with a bristleback, or even be spamming dagger um, as a PA. So in terms of item choice, I get why you picked up the boots. Um, Not really sure how valuable magic stick is in this specific lane. I would have rather had you just build towards your wraith band because those stats make a huge difference. And maybe just having a salve to help you survive or stay in the lane for longer. Cool. Get a kill. Yeah, fair enough.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Okay. Um, so you are missing out on a bunch of CS, and that's primarily because um you probably feel um like you probably feel scared because they're harassing you a lot and you're like almost like half HP. But in this specific scenario, because you do have healing ward and you do have a lot of like resources to kind of help you sustain and like survive the lane moving on. I would have liked uh to see you use the healing ward over there, just because getting those last hits really do make a difference, right? Um it can help you either like finish your next small item, which is I'm guessing either a power treads or a phase boots or another set of wraith bands. So I know the healing ward has a huge cooldown. It's like 60 seconds, but I do think it's worth being able to get those extra couple of last hits, especially when you're sitting in front of your tower. When you have a healing ward behind you, there should be no reason for the enemies to like jump on you and try to kill you in front of your own tower. So I would like for you to try to do that maybe the next time around,
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
right? So I do think that you could have easily denied some of these creeps. You do manage to get one creep over here, I think. You miss out on this one, unfortunately. Um, and with the healing ward, like you can like obviously position yourself a lot more aggressively, especially when you're sitting in the range of your own tower. something that like you wanna consider. I'm sure you know this already, but it might be difficult to think of um, when you are like in that situation. Okay, so you see that Venno is out of position and you immediately go on him. That's cool. Legion overextends himself. Could potentially die here. I see. Yeah, he gets a kill but ends up dying. Yeah, that's way too like um, that's way too deep for him. Okay,
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Let the bodies hit the floor.
so I can see that you cut the tree over here with your quelling blade. Or I don't know if it was with your tango, but you clearly understand that this camp can be pulled. I would have probably liked to see you pull this camp at this stage. You can pull it at 27 seconds and at 57 seconds. Just because your creep wave is pushing into the enemy tower, and you don't want to always rely on Lion, and also B, he's not in the lane right now. So this is something that you can just kind of take care of yourself. You would probably miss out on this one CS over here. Um, but I think it is more valuable for you to be positioned a little more defensively in this situation. Veno has obviously rotated top, but Treant has died and could potentially rotate to the bottom lane. And it just allows you to kind of control the lane and not necessarily have your Legion play um, more aggressively. Yeah, yeah, I figured. Yeah, that should be a kill. Okay. I mean, it seemed to have kind of worked out in your favor,
Bottom tower is under
because your
attack.
line did TP in, and you have catapult that's pushing into the tower. So it's not all that bad, I want to say.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Okay, so you move to the jungle and continue to farm. Yeah, that's fine. I would have probably I know like even in this like instance for example, right? I would have probably had you just go all the way to the small camp and actually just try to pull the small camp into your creep wave. Because it's very clear that the lion is not thinking of any of those things. Um, so if like you, it clearly seems like you understand these concept of pulling. Um, so I would have had you actually do that. And in this case, like you wouldn't have missed out on any CS like in the lane. You would have probably been able to pull this camp, been able to last hit these creeps as well, right? So this wave wouldn't be as pushed in over here, right? So either you would probably have to make the call of whether you need to stay in the small camp and continue to take those last hits, or if you have to like go into the lane and either be under the tower and hitting these creeps, or being slightly further ahead and hitting the creeps in the lane. Um, so in some cases, when your support isn't doing his or her job in the lane in terms of pulling the waves, you should kind of you know um, make that call and decide, okay, this is a good time to be pulling in either the small camp or the big camp. In this case, it would have been the small camp. And it just puts you in a much better uh, like it basically puts you in an advantage and doesn't make your enemy feel super comfortable when he or she is laning. Just a small tip. I don't know if you know this already, but when you do use your healing salve, you do want to backpack your wraith band and your magic wand, just because they're all stat items, and they have um like two attributes in strength on each wraith band, and I believe three attributes on the magic wand. So it just means that you'll get a lot more value out of your healing salve if you backpack it. Um, because that's basically like five strength that you put in your backpack. Um, just like something to be efficient with in terms of your regen.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Um, a problem that you have is that when the lane gets hard, I just run to the jungle instead of fixing the lane. I should definitely work on that. Yeah, yeah. And usually like when at least like I want to say in the legend bracket and ancient bracket, um you do get supports that are a little better with helping you control the lane equilibrium. So you don't necessarily have to worry about it so much. But there will be instances, um, either when you play safe lane or when you play off lane, where your support does have to leave at some point. Hopefully when uh, your lane is in a good condition, um, and it's okay for them to leave. But there will be instances where they have to leave, and you kind of have to control the lane yourself. So yeah, that's something that really helps control um, the lane a lot better.
Radiant structures are fortified. Radiant's middle
Over here,
tower
I
is
would have
under attack.
like I know the line gets um, the range creep, but I would have probably have you prioritize
Radiant's
the
middle
range creep
tower is
instead
under
of
attack.
going for the melee creep. Still, like it's not a big deal because your lion did manage to get the last hit. It didn't get denied, so all good.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Um, I do think, however, that even in the current state of the laning
Dire's
phase,
middle tower is under attack.
I don't think it's necessary for you to be hitting the enemy creeps as much. Um, the problem is that it just keeps getting pushed closer to the enemy tower, right? Um, I do think that in this specific case, right? You
Dire's
okay? So you
middle
basically
tower is
have
under attack.
um right before this, yeah, yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, yeah, I get it's not a big deal. You are level 7 as well, so you could basically like move to the jungle and start like continue to farm. Yeah, I think that's okay. Okay, so you make your way to the jungle, pick up a neutral item. Your warlock rotates bottom.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Um, yeah, I mean, okay, at this point, um, okay, you managed to get a kill, Nogano. At this point, um, you have like you kind of need to decide over staying in the lane or trying to like maximize your farm, right? And if you say that you wanted to push out the lane to maximize your farm, you should be trying to maximize your farm. Um, I get that it is tempting to like stay around in the lane and try to react to these kind of situations. But in the meantime, you guys did end up losing the bounty rune, and I don't think there was any reason for you guys to have lost the bounty rune. Um, it is difficult in some cases to be deciding like what's more important. Obviously, it is really important to be getting in that kill, and also the tower is really low right now, so you could potentially also take this tower. Um, I'm not gonna like blame anyone, obviously, because these things happen. I'm assuming that at the end of all this, you will go in and continue to farm. Um, so it's fine. That is a pretty early Blade Fury, I'm not gonna lie. Okay,
Dire's bottom tower has fallen.
okay, so
Radiant's
you have four
middle tower
heroes
is under
stationed
attack.
in the bottom lane. Um, your clock unfortunately dives way too deep. I do think that I noticed this slightly like in your laning phase as well. Um, but when you do use your Blade Fury, I do think you're using it like maybe a half a second or like a second ahead of when you're supposed to be using it. Um, so maybe it's just something that you can work on, you know. And this is like completely unnecessary. Um, I do think you're like way too deep into the enemy's lane right now, and there's no need to be doing that.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
And you know, even at that stage, sorry, just give me a second. Even at this stage, um, you probably realize that it's too late now. Even though you've like used your blade fury, even though you've used your Omni Slash and you've like positioned yourself like very aggressively behind the enemy tier 2 tower. But I do still think that you could have probably survived there. Just by using your healing ward, and essentially like just TPing out. Um, so there's a window of opportunity over here, right? Um, there's a window of opportunity here, right? Right before you finish your Omni Slash, right?
Radiant's top
You try
tower
to
is
get
under attack.
the kill here, I'm assuming. But at this point, you should know that it's very um the you should kind of weigh your opportunity cost over here, right? You should understand that even though there is a possibility that you could get this kill on the Veno, it's really not worth feeding in that gold to your to the enemy mid laner, right? Um, so let's look at where the enemy mid laner is at. So in terms of CS, the co-op is doing okay. Like she's basically on par with your Tinker. So that means like anything, like any sort of resource that she gets right now, because she also doesn't have any debts on her, it's just going to add to her farm and help her kind of snowball into the game. And I do believe that you might be the hero with the highest amount of kills in this game. Yeah. Um, so yes, you may have positioned yourself like super aggressively right now, but you need to realize that this skill is really not worth it. And just save yourself the trouble and kind of play as defensively as you possibly can. In this case, what I suggest is basically using your healing ward as soon as you realize that you've um, stepped way too ahead. So essentially, right after you finish the Omni Slash, and even if you do get one more hit on the Veno, you should realize that you're really slow right now with the Venomous Scale. And on top of that, if Co-op does Shadow Strike you, and I'm assuming she does immediately right after, even if she doesn't, you need to just use your healing ward and essentially TP out. And I know that there's a Treon like TPing in and does have his ulti available, but you have 3 seconds essentially, right? You have 3 seconds to use your TP and basically like just get out
Dire's
of that.
middle tower is
And
under attack.
even if you do um, end up being stopped by the overgrowth, at least you use like a big ultimate of theirs, right? Yeah, I mean, um, like I do think that you need to kind of understand like what your main role here is. I know that like you already have like 5 kills under your belt, um, so it might just seem natural for you to continue moving that way and increasing the number of kills that you have. But once you basically take down this tier 1 tower, I do think that your main job is to essentially just be sitting in the neutral camps and just continuing to farm.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Okay,
Dire's top
so you
tower
TP
is under
into your
attack.
tier 2 tower to farm. Cool.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
I would at this stage I would probably like to see you using your Blade Fury just to clear out like either the creep camps or the creep waves in the lanes. Just because the cooldown on the Blade Fury is pretty low right now. It's just like 18 seconds. And if you're not planning on being a part of these fights, um, I don't see why you shouldn't be optimizing your farm and like decreasing the amount of time that you spend either in the lane or in a certain jungle camp.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Okay, so where is your Tinker all this while? Okay.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Radiant structures are fortified. Radiant structures are fortified.
Okay, so you guys do manage to get 2 kills here. They were positioned very aggressively though. Okay, okay, and then you continue to farm. Cool.
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's middle
Seems like you canceled your TP. Not sure where you were trying to go.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Oh, I see, I see.
Dire's
Okay,
middle tower
that's fine.
is under attack. Dire's
That's not a big
structures
deal.
are
I do
fortified.
think that at this point, you could probably position yourself um towards the top side of the map. Just because yes, Tinker could potentially go there. Um, but hopefully, like once you clear these waves, you'll start moving into your into your triangle. Lion does TP in and kind of stops the push. That's fine. Okay,
Radiant's
you managed
middle
to stack the
tower is
camps.
under attack.
I would really like to see you use your Blade Fury more often to clear these creep waves.
Radiant's middle tower has been denied.
I know it might not seem like a big thing, but it's just having that extra bit of efficiency just helps you farm like way quicker. And it helps you obviously react uh to situations on the map where your enemy like where your allies need you. Um, Unfortunately, your line gets picked off. Might just die here. Yeah. Um. Unfortunately, um, I'm not sure when the okay the clock gets picked off right after the line. I see. Um, I do think that it's unnecessary for you guys to be positioned this aggressively, this early on in the game. Um, so if you look at items, right, you have a you have a line who basically has like basic support items so far, which is expected, just a tranquil boots and magic wand. You have a warlock that only has arcane boots and has his shadow. Sorry, he has a shadow word available, but there's not a lot of defense mechanisms or escape mechanisms that you guys have right now. The only person that has it is probably you with your Blade Fury, and even that is on cooldown. Not only that, but your Omni Slash is on cooldown as well. And I do believe that the clock uses hookshot. Um, so at this point, I do think that if you want to get some sort of objective, it should most probably be the mid tower. And maybe um, it could be the case where your team is sort of like communicating and like suggesting that you guys engage in some sort of fight. But you guys clearly have no vision. Um, Let me just see this quickly. Yeah, you guys clearly don't have any vision. A of their high ground and B of like what heroes could potentially come from this area. And yes, Veno is dead, but there's still 4 heroes on the map that can easily react to this, right? You have Treant Protector in the bottom lane with the TP. You also have the Terrorblade, who is actually just TPing in right now, and has his meta available. And he's just been farming like the whole game, right? And for him, this is like the perfect situation. Um, because all he needs to do is like TP in. He is probably one of the strongest heroes on the map. Just given that he has his meta available, and given the fact that a lot of your big spells um, on on your side are on cooldown. Yes, you do have Tinker to react to these kind of situations, but he also doesn't have a blink. Um, So it's a lot more like difficult to play around, I want to say. Um, so at this point, just realize that you don't have any vision of the map, of the high ground, and like you um you should know that like the enemies will be able to react to these kind of situations very quickly. Even if so, I'm guessing the reason you guys try to like re-engage in this fight is because your line gets picked off. But you need to realize that he is just a position 5 at the end of the day. And it was his decision to kind of position himself where he is. I can see that you guys are backing off already. If he gets picked off, just let him get picked off, and just like focus on your farm and try to um, just finish off your items as soon as possible. Yeah, you might just end up dying here as well.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Summoned forth.
Yeah, no, that happens. But like I said, even if you don't have the TP, like just um understanding that that's a bad situation, like a bad position to be putting yourselves in. Um, yes, you have times where your teammate is like your position 5 is getting picked off and is asking for your help. Um, but it it doesn't necessarily mean that that person knows that um, having his teammates come in to help him is necessarily the best like play to make. Um, being the carry and being the one of the highest net worth heroes on your team, you should realize that moving forward, like that is not a hero you need to be saving at that time. Um, okay.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
The Legion is grateful.
Oh man, dude, this is a fucking horrible word. What is this, man? Oh my God. This is this is not giving any kind of vision. What the fuck is this? Okay, okay. This is okay, but I do think it could be better. So in some cases, this is what's going to happen, right? You have a support player who is not really doing um the best that they could be doing for the team. Um, in this case, like, and this is what I tend to do. Um, I do this a lot, like when I play either mid lane. Um, to be honest, like any position that I do play, um, if I notice that we don't have enough vision um of the map, if we don't have enough good vision and there are observer wards available, I just tend to pick them up and go and place them in the spots that I think um, can give us like better map vision. So in this case, this is obviously like not the best ward to be placing. I'm sure you know why. So I would pick them up, maybe put them over here, given that you do want to be continuing to farm, right? Because you haven't finished your battle fury yet. So if I were you, just pick up one ward if it's accessible to you. Place it over here. You could even place it here. Over sorry, over here. Maybe even over here. Um, like I think this area and this area. are usually less likely to get dewarded. Um, I don't know if you do this already, but like I would like to see more like carry players and more core players just picking up wards and like placing them. It is also also free, right? And in this case, as you can clearly see, relying on your support to play some of these wards is not necessarily like the best option either.
Dire's middle
So,
tower is under attack.
so I do this the most when I play Ricky at least. Um, so with Ricky, like once you get your diffusal, usually like your I want to say like one of the strongest heroes like on the map, provided they have like squishy supports. In this case, like for Ricky, like I guess Veno is probably the easiest pick off and maybe a Quap. Um, but let's say for example there's a Lion, or even like a Witch Doctor. It's pretty easy for Ricky to get kills. But the only thing that can stop Ricky is if the enemy has good vision control. So if they have good sentries and good observers placed that kind of give them information of when a Riki is rotating or trying to make a move on them. That's the only thing that can stop them. So I understand that, right? Because I've played Riki like a decent amount. Um, and I also understand like the hero's timings. It's basically right after you finish your diffusal blade. And so if my support players aren't really facilitating um, me in trying to like find these pickoffs, I'll just go ahead and buy like all of the observer words that are available in the shop. I'll also even purchase maybe one or two sentries. Sometimes when I'm raging, like I'll just buy all of the I'll just buy all of the sentries that are available. Like, because I know that that's how important vision is, especially for a hero like Ricky. So that's something that I do. I obviously like don't recommend you buying sentries as a carry, but definitely do at least buy like one observer ward,
Radiant
just
are
so you can
scanning.
um be farming like um and have knowledge of like uh where the enemies are if they're trying to gank you and stuff like that. So you do have Warlock placing this ward for you. That's good. I'm
Loyalty
glad.
will be rewarded.
Hey Fenno, what's up? Okay. Oh damn, your clock bot back. Oh my god. Dude, he must be raging right now. There was no need for that.
Radiant
Okay.
structures are fortified.
So it seems like um
Radiant's bottom tower
three
is
people
under
from your
attack.
team just got picked off, unfortunately. So basically like when all of this was happening, your um no, he's not uh we're not talking like on Discord or anything. He's in the chat actually. So when all of this is happening, right? Like when you guys were kind of positioned over here a couple of minutes ago, um, you should have noticed that the Treant was basically pushing in the bottom lane. I don't know if he had his Meteor Hammer at that point, but he does have it right now. Um,
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen. Dire's top tower is under attack.
okay, so you continue to farm. Cool. I do think that your Battle Fury timing has gotten delayed a little bit. Obviously because of you know the fight before. Um, Okay. Sorry, I had to pause for a second there. Okay, and then you go for a Manta right after. Yeah, I think that's a good item to build into this game. Continue to farm.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Cool. You do have Legion that's missing on the map, so you need to be careful. Okay, your clock goes in the Veno. Yeah, I do. So, like I mentioned earlier, right? I do think you're probably using your Blade Fury a lot earlier than you're supposed to. Um, I do think that maybe in this game it would have been nice to probably have a diffusal blade. Um, just because once, um, so let's say like you don't have, let's say you don't have clock, right? Or if you don't have line, close to you, and in this case there's no line available. Clock can only close in on a hero if he's really close to that hero, or if he has hookshot available. And hookshot does have a long cooldown, like in the first level. Um, Not necessary like that you get diffusal blade all the time, but it would be very easy for you to close in on heroes like the Treant, heroes like Veno. Also, obviously, Legion Commander as well, but you don't really like see um you don't see like carry players kind of closing in on heroes that are more tanky. I'm just talking about heroes that are like easier to pick off. In this case, like Co-op has Blink as well. Um, so maybe like you probably wouldn't be able to kill her anyways, but just like something that um you can think of, I guess. You do get picked off, unfortunately. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm sure you know like there's no reason for you to be positioned like that, especially because you know that the Legion has Blink. Also has Blade Mail available with him. And I'm not sure if you knew this, but the co-op all like obviously had her ultimate available as well. Yeah, I think that's the um like that's probably like the biggest mistake that like a lot of carry players make. Even in high MMR probs and even like um I want to say issues that like players in pro teams face as well. You'll see this happen to Miracle a lot. I don't know if he's changed gameplay, but like as a carry player, like it's just very tempting to be able to stick around like in the wrong like areas of the map and trying to like be getting in farm. Um, Obviously, in hindsight, you know that now that that probably wasn't like the best call to make.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Yeah, so you said that you decided to go for a Saint and Yasha instead. I do think that Manta this game is probably better. just because it helps you survive a little longer, like during team fights. Um, it also has a basic dispel, which I think is really good, right? So what spells do the enemies have that um, can help you make use of that? I'm not sure if overgrowth can be dispelled. Do you know if it can be dispelled with a manta? Probably not, right? It can, yeah. So then it's a perfect item for this game. Um, you should definitely have gone for it. And it is easy to, I believe, dispel the Orchid as well, along with the Shadow Strike. I see. Okay, that's good. Oh man.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
uh, your Tinker shouldn't be playing that aggressive. It's unfortunate that he gets picked off like that. Okay.
Radiant structures are fortified. Radiant's top tower has fallen.
Yeah. So um, like I understand why you go Saint and Yasha, but I just do think that it would have been a lot more valuable here. Also, there's no reason for you to stick around at this point because you just had your Tinker die, and you don't really have any form of escape once the co-op uses her Orchid on you. Um, and it's just I do think that at this point, because Terrorblade also has his meta on, I believe, it is very easy for them to burst you down. So there's no reason for you to be positioning yourself like that. I do see that the clock, for some reason, believes that um, he has a chance of getting in some kills, or maybe he was using it defensively to try to save you. But if you look at their lineup, if you look at their items, and if you look at your lineup and look at your items, you can clearly tell that they are at uh, a huge advantage right now. Yeah.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack. Radiant's top barracks are under attack.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes because you so I do think overall um the enemies do have um a slightly better lineup. Um just in terms of team fight, they have a lot of AoE spells, right? They have Venomous Gale, they have Overgrowth, which I actually haven't seen the Treant Protector use, just because he's basically just positioned himself on the side lane and he's just like pushing in lanes. They also have Sonic Wave, Scream of Pain, all of those abilities that are good like AoE spells. And then you obviously have Terrorblade, who essentially just has to come in at the end of the fights and like finish you off with his meta. um, so it does seem like it just in terms of draft, like you guys might be slightly weaker. Um, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible for you to win these sort of games. Um, I do think that itemization, being able to understand like the your priorities like in the game, like with this like specific game as well, you do need to address the fact that um, your lanes are being pushed in, right? And you also do need to make sure that you have like enough vision, but maybe it might be too late to do something like that. Um, so in this game, what you could have done differently, obviously, is have rushed your Manta instead of going for the Saint Yasha. Try to get vision um, of your um of your own neutral camps that can allow you to like safely position yourself in the jungle and maybe even position yourself like in the side lanes a little bit. It is obviously difficult in this game given that they have an LC and she can easily just TP and like blink in on you. But that's why wards help, right? Like having either defensive or aggressive, ideally like a combination of the two, would help you um, make those kind of decisions and help you kind of play better around the lineup that the enemies have.
Radiant's top barracks has fallen. Radiant's top barracks has fallen. Radiant's bottom tower
Okay, so the game does go on for a lot longer. I'm surprised. Um, but it like they are playing against the Tinker high ground, right? So that is like pretty hard um, to play against.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Okay, you continue to farm. Um, I I would really like for you to have purchased an observer ward right now. I know that it's your support role. Um, but since your main, like the only way that you guys can get back into the game is if A, your Tinker, and B, you, the carry, is really strong. And the only way that you can get strong is by farming. And the only way that you can farm is by making sure that the enemies aren't going on you and like don't have vision of you. Um, so I do want to see what kind of vision your enemies have right now. Okay, I see. Well, unfortunately, they don't have any aggressive walls. But usually, like in high MMR pubs, like once you take down the tier two tower, right, of the Radiant side, you would immediately want to have some sort of aggressive walls. Most likely, you would um put up walls in this area of the map if you're playing from Dire, right? You probably put it here. You could put it here as well. They might end up putting it here, maybe even here. And in some cases, obviously, when you're pushing high ground against the Radiant team, you would want to maybe put a ward over here so you have information of like what's about to happen. Maybe even here sometimes. So I know that that hasn't happened this game, but I would still like for you, given that there is an observer ward in the shop, there's two observer wards right now, and this is probably the best time to kind of go around. Um, and since you are kind of farming, like you are pushing out the top lane, and you are also like farming this neutral camp, and I'm assuming you would probably like try to farm this area as well. It is a really good time for you to be setting up these
Now
wards.
scanning.
Your Warlock does place
Dire's
an
top
observer
tower is
here.
under attack.
I think that's okay.
Dire's structures are fought. Dire's top tower is
I think
under
that's okay.
attack.
I think like usually like my mentality when playing at some sort of disadvantage. Right now the enemies are kind of leading in terms of net worth. They have a 14,000 net worth. They've managed to take down your top set of racks. My mentality like going into these kind of games when we're at a disadvantage is um A, you need to like be try to become a little stronger. Um Obviously by increasing your farm and trying to itemize slightly better. It is obviously difficult to pick up big items in a short amount of time. Um so that means that um A, you need to like try to become stronger. And B, you need to essentially try to find pickoffs on your enemies. And the only way that you can try to find pickoffs on the enemies is by placing aggressive wards. So that means in this case, right, you have a short window of opportunity. I think I do believe like two heroes had died, right? I'm not sure. I think like yeah, two heroes had died, and at that point, either you or your allies need to start getting more like vision control. In this case, you do have a ward here, which gives like good information. But the thing is, 9 times out of 10, you will find your enemies basically pushing in the other lanes instead of the lane that already has like the racks down. So yes, this is some form of vision, but it's not the best form of vision, if you understand what I'm saying. So ideally, like I would like to have seen this ward being placed probably somewhere in your own jungle, in the bottom side of the map. And I would like to have seen the second ward being placed a lot more aggressively, um, either over here or maybe even over here if that's possible. Ideally, like having a ward here would be amazing. And I know it's like really difficult to do, um, but like just having your lion or like someone like one of your supports maybe even go in, like buy like a smoke and essentially just like go in, and he also has blink as well, so it shouldn't have been like too difficult for him to like place these walls. But obviously like because you can't rely on them, you can, however, see that. um Wait, let's go back.
Dire's top tower
Yeah, no
is under
worries.
attack.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in though. I will finish up the replay in like half an hour or something, and you can obviously like take a look at it tomorrow.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Okay, so you guys end up getting a pick off because the enemies position themselves super aggressively. Seems like Terrorblade wasted his meta as well.
Dire are scanning.
So like I said before, usually when I know that we're at a disadvantage in any shape or form, in this case, like just knowing that the enemies are stronger as an entire unit, I would want to see a lot more aggressive wards being placed. In this case, like you know that there's a Terrorblade, and most likely when there is nothing else for the enemies to do in terms of getting objectives, you do know that the Terrorblade is going to be positioned in the enemy jungle. So getting a pick off on a Terrorblade should not be very difficult for your team, given that you have a lion, given that you have a clockwork that can initiate with a hook shot, and can also obviously use battery assault and power cogs. Um, so ideally, like finding a pickoff on the Terrorblade would be ideal. So maybe placing a ward over here, right? This is usually a spot that doesn't get dewarded too often, I want to say. So either over here, maybe even over here, or like on the other side of the map. So maybe here. This is a good spot, I believe, that usually doesn't get dewarded. And this is also something that the enemies don't really expect that often, right? Um, when you see that you're winning a game, right? So let's think of like um, the mentality of the players from the dire side right now. So they've basically pushed in the top wave, um, and they've essentially gotten to like a set of racks in the top lane, right? So you immediately think that you are at a point of advantage, and that is true, right? Even though they did get picked off in a bad like team fight over here, they're still at an advantage in terms of towers, in terms of buildings. And they do basically have mega creeps on the top side of the lane. So that means that from their state of mind, they are essentially just trying to close in on you, and just like essentially either trying to get mega creeps by pushing in one lane at a time. So like getting in megas in the mid lane, or in this case, most probably going to like try to find like megas on the bottom lane and then either like the mid lane after, or like vice versa. So that means that they'll probably try to place aggressive wards as much as they possibly can, um, and try to like close in on you and like prevent you guys from like getting any sort of map control and prevent you guys from getting any sort of farm. So that means that you can easily assume that there will be as little wards in their area of the map or in their jungle, meaning that you have the opportunity to actually place these kind of aggressive wards over here and get some really easy pickoffs.
Dire's top tower is under attack. Radiant's middle tower is under Radiant structures are fortified. Radiant's middle tower has Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Radiant's middle tower.
Okay, so what just happened there? Okay, you see Quap coming. Okay, so your Warlock gets picked off before this. Um, Not sure where. Okay, he gets picked off in the bottom side of the map. Okay,
Dire's top tower is under attack.
okay,
Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Radiant structures are fortified.
okay. So over here you get
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
I see. Okay, that's fine. Not much you could have done there, I guess. Okay, so while you guys are fighting at bot, seems like Terrorblade has solo killed Roche, which means that he. Wait, let me go back. Okay, he's just really strong right now. Cool, and he's used meta, that's why he was able to get Roche. Okay. You guys managed to find two pickoffs in the meantime. Okay. Probably kill this Veno as well. That's okay. You end up finishing a Basher. Cool.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack. Dire's top tower.
Okay, you push in the top lane. Cool, you finally get the tier 1 tower.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
You pick up a DD rune. That's good. Okay. I see. I see. I see. I see. Hmm. You know, at this point, um, at this point, all of your enemies are basically like stationed outside of your base. Um, so I don't know if this is something that you think of, but um, I do think that it's not necessary for you to TP in immediately. Um, Usually as like when you're playing from behind, um, uh, you're usually playing from behind because either you don't have like most probably because you're not as strong as the enemies, right? And the only way that you can become as strong as them or like become stronger than them is by getting farm, getting more control of the map. And the only way to essentially do that is by farming more, right? So instead of TPing in immediately, and I know that like the enemies are pushing in and the creeps could potentially get into your base at any moment. But I don't see the harm in like continuing to farm like in this area of the map, for example, because most likely there might not be any sort of vision here. Um, so I would have you probably like take these neutral creeps over here, and then after that maybe either like push in the top lane. The only real threat over here is the LC, right? And that's why you have the mini map. The moment you see LC like disappearing from the map, that's the time for you to like back off, basically. Okay. Yeah, you had I think you had like a 15-second like window over there where you could have maybe gotten a little bit of more farm.
Radiant's bottom tower
But I
has
understand
fallen.
that you just like picked up a DD rune and you probably felt like you wanted to take a fight over here. Um, yeah, that I don't. Okay,
Radiant's bottom tower.
I do
Radiant's
think
bottom
that was
tower
a
has
very
fallen.
unnecessary death, if I'm being very honest with you.
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen. Radiant's bottom tower has fallen.
Okay, you get a kill on you kill the TV, but he does have Aegis, obviously. Um, but he still ends up dying. Okay. They do manage to get a set of racks, however. Um,
Dire's structures
so
are
I
fortified.
don't think it's like I don't think it's game losing that the Terrorblade died. He does have a lot of he does have a manta and like pretty strong items. Also has a paladin sword, so it's pretty tanky. I want to say like during team fights, especially um with his meta on. Um,
Dire's middle tower is
so
under
you do
attack.
push in the mid lane. That's good. Um, you
Dire's
have
structures
Treant
are
pushing
fortified.
in the side lanes though.
Dire's middle
Okay,
tower is under attack.
okay. You get the enemy Dio 2 tower. Cool. Okay, you finish your Abyssal. Okay, this game goes on for a really long time. Okay, I'm just gonna
Radiant
skip
are
forward as much
scanning.
as I can. So obviously, since you have a Warlock ulti, you have Tinker. You also have Fatal Bonds and an Omni with Battle Fury. Sorry, an Omni Slash with Battle Fury. It is um, going to be a little difficult for the enemies to kind of close in the game, and I'm guessing that's why it kind of extends this far out. Okay, right. Okay. Okay, so you disassemble your Saint and Yasha and you finish your Manta style.
Radiant
Cool.
begin.
Okay. You don't have buyback though, I believe. Oh man. Oh, do you? Yeah, you do have buyback. Never mind. Okay, so you queue up a halberd right after that. Okay. Um, I think I'm okay with that. Um, I'm just thinking if there's a better item that you could have gone for in this game.
Dire structures are fortified.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I suppose the halberd is good against the TB, but at this point, um, he does have he does have an MKB. So the only thing that works in your favor is using the active skill of the halberd. Um,
Roshan has fallen to the ground.
but I do feel like you are still lacking a lot of damage. So I'm not necessarily sure that was the best route to go. Um, and I do think that at this stage in the game, it might be a little late to even get a Heaven's Halberd. Um, it is obviously good against the LC. Um, so I don't think it's a bad item like um, in any way. It would have probably been nice for the clock to have itemized for something like this. Um, I do like the idea of you having a Saint and Yasha still, just because of the status resistance that it gives. Um, but yeah, this
Radiant
is okay.
structures are fortified.
I would like, so I mean, I would like to see you use the halberd, given that you have like purchased it like in any ways. Um, just so it like disables, um, just so it disables the like one of the Terrorblade, like either illusion or like the main hero from like hitting either the like the racks or like hitting like heroes in this case. Okay, seems like you still managed to kill them. Cool. Terrorblade does have H's though. Um,
Radiant's middle
okay.
tower is under attack.
This is what I was afraid of. Um, with the Heaven's Halberd build. This game, like especially like this late into the game, is that you don't really have a lot of physical damage output that comes from your team, apart from you, obviously, right? Like you have a Tinker, you have a Lion, a Warlock, and Clock. And none of these heroes, um, like their purpose in this specific game is to basically enable you to kind of finish off the enemy heroes with a lot of like burst physical damage. And in this case, because you did decide to go for a Heaven's Halberd, um, it does make you less survivable in these team fights. Uh, I want to say, sorry. Um, okay, let's see like what other item you could have gone for, right? Okay, so a Saint Yasha um gives you 20% status resistance, right? Um, Heaven's Halberd also gives you the same amount. Um, but it gives you 20 strength, 20 evasion, and obviously gives you the active disarm ability, right? Um, Saint Yasha gives you the the same status resistance, same self HP regen plus lifesteal amp, but it gives you an additional 16 attack speed. Also gives you 16 agility, in addition to the strength that is provided in um, the Heaven's Halberd. So I would have probably liked for you to, have rushed either an SNY or maybe like a damage item instead of finishing off the Heaven's Halberd or even finishing off a Saint Yasha. Um, both of these items, I do believe, like um, are, aren't as impactful as in like as aren't as impactful like this late into the game, I want to say. Okay, so you get more attack speed. That's fine.
Radiant's middle barracks are under attack. Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Okay, sorry, let me go back.
Radiant's middle barracks is fortified. Radiant's middle barracks is fortified.
Okay. Um, huh. I see. Okay, so you're basically pushing in the mid lane. Your lion and your clock are still dead. And the only person that are alive right now, in addition to you from your team, is the warlock and the tinker. Okay. Um, and as soon as Terrorblade buys back, you back off. Okay. Um, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Given that you don't like the tinker doesn't have a Scythe of Vice yet, so it is like a lot more difficult to be playing a lot more aggressively. So I guess backing off is the right call to make at that point. You finish your MKB.
Radiant are scanning.
Okay. Okay. I do think that maybe this game, it would have been better for you. I want to say, I do think that you could maybe like reconsider some of your item choices. Um, so in this game, you have a co-op that has a Go Scepter, right? You also have a Veno that has a Force Staff and a Yules. So that means they do have some forms of escape on their side. But there's no way for you to really address that until and unless you um sorry until and unless you go for a nullifier, right? And nullifier is good because it gives you that plus 80 damage, and also gives you the active ability to kind of dispel or reduce like the duration of the first staff. I do believe that it dispels the Yules as well. Yeah. Um, so I mean, obviously, let's see like how the fights kind of pan out, like moving forward. Um, I don't think it makes sense for you to be buying a Battle Fury for sure this game. Just because you already have a TB that has an MKB, so it will be able to pierce through the butterfly evasion. Okay, moving forward.
Shan has fallen to the dark.
Um, okay. Oh man. Okay. Um, yeah, the problem is that like you guys have no vision of the map, and it's obviously very difficult to like play um into mega creeps. But if I'm not mistaken, um there have been several like windows of opportunity for you to kind of get control, like get like vision control of the map. Just gonna go back a little bit. Okay, I mean it's obviously like your the job of your support to be putting in some sort of like wards and like trying to get like vision of the map. But if they're not doing it, like you do need to like try to communicate it with them. Um, Ideally, like this late into the game, like you want to have your support maybe buying a smoke and trying to like get more information from the map. So just like having your lion purchase like as many observers and sentries as possible and just like placing like going by himself with a smoke um into like different areas of the map and um placing those wards down. But instead he just has like four observers like sitting in his backpack right now. So they just got Roche. I think this is probably the biggest objective for them right now. I do believe it's like the third or fourth Roche, if I'm not mistaken. Um, okay. Okay, I'm thinking if it was possible for you guys to contest the Roche. You have a um you have a Warlock with a Scepter Refresher Orb, um, along with the level 2 Necrobook. You have a Lion, who I want to say is not super great to be taking part in these fights, and then you have a Clockwork who has a Hookshot, um, Magic Lamp, and Crimson and Pipe. Um, and then you have you, who deals a decent amount of damage, but might not be enough without actually having your Tinker as well, like in the fight. Um, Tinker could obviously like TP in, but at the same time, like there's a huge chance that if he does leave, there's a possibility that like the waves get pushed in. Um, so I can see why you guys decided not to go and contest the Roche. That's okay. But at this point, like it might be really difficult for you to recover, especially because um I believe it's the Roche that might have given the LC the Ags blessing. Not sure. Yeah.
Roshan has fallen to the damage.
So it's a pretty valuable like Roche in this case. They get cheese, they get refresher. Sorry, they don't. I don't think they get refresher. They get cheese, they get ages, right? And they get the Axe blessing on the LC, which basically lets him duel like anyone from your team without being affected, without taking any like additional damage. I believe he does find a pick off, right? But then dies immediately after that. Okay. Your clock gets picked off. Okay. Okay. So at this point you have 5,000 reliable gold. Um, sorry, you have a 5,000 gold surplus with you. Let's see what you could have bought with that. You could have probably bought a nullifier with this gold that you have. So while you were sitting in base, you could have either sent your courier along this side of the map, basically over here, usually where the enemies don't have vision of you. Obviously, if they have like an observer, like it would easily get courier sniped. Ideally, like you would have want to have sent your courier to basically get the sacred relic and bring it back. I do think there was time, especially because they were trying to get Roche before. So I do think it was possible for you to get those items. And having those, uh, having like a complete um, set of items at this late into the game is basically what helps you like close a game, or like these are like make or break situations, right? And I do think that it would have been possible for you to kill the co-op in this situation, right? She decides to use her ghost form, and I don't think like this late into the game, any player, either like support or co-player, should be able to get away with using a ghost form against a carry or against a hero that basically does like only physical damage. Um, so I think itemizing for a nullifier would have been um I don't know if it would have been game changing, but you would have definitely been able to kill this Quap. I know this. I know she still has a cheese on her. But there is a possibility again that you would have gotten a bash when you were going on her with the Omni Slash. Okay. A lot of buybacks coming in.
Radiant's middle tower is
Not sure where you are right now. Sorry. Let's go back. Okay.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
Yeah. See what happened there. It might have been a little late
Radiant's middle
to
tower
use your disarm on the TV. Um, but even then, right? Like his illusions are still like really strong. Um, illusion damage does 60% of what the hero damage does. Um, and he has 300 and 60, 30, 330 damage that he does. Um,
dire structures are fortified.
yeah, I don't think there's much that you can do to
Radiant
survive this.
structures are fortified.
Because your Omni Slash is on cooldown. You do have buyback, but you still have a lot of like unused gold just like sitting in your inventory.
Radiant's ancient is under attack.
Okay.
Radiant's ancient is under attack.
Look, I mean, just like looking at the playstyle of the enemies, like it's very clear that they also make a lot of mistakes, and that's expected, right? I do think, however, that in this given situation, um, you would have been very you would have had a higher chance of actually winning this game if you had itemized slightly differently. So in this case, um, let's say you decide to keep the halberd, right? Even though I don't think that's necessarily like the best item of choice over here. I do think that having a having a nullifier and having an axe for you would have probably been a lot more valuable for you. Um, just because having um that additional like form of damage that comes with the swift slash, I believe that's what it's called, right? Having a swift slash A gives you more damage output during fights, and B also kind of acts as an escape mechanism for you, right? Um, so you'll be able to dish out more damage with your ags, um, which is not the case with the Heaven's Halberd, right? Like the issue with Heaven's Halberd is, yes, it has some form of evasion, like passive evasion that you get, but in this case, the Terrorblade does have an MKB, so it's kind of so that part of the item is kind of nullified, right? It also gives you disarm, like the active disarm. Um, but even if you are able to disarm a single Terrorblade, either his main hero or like one of his illusions, you still have like other units that he has available to him that can still be dishing out damage. So in terms of effectiveness this late into the game, especially against the Terrorblade, I don't think it's very useful, if I'm being honest. Just because the main thing that you need to be doing, as a Juggernaut in this specific scenario is to be trying to dish out as much damage as possible. And that's mostly like what most Juggernauts are supposed to be doing. Um, so I would have probably itemized for an Axe instead of the Heaven's Albert. And then with the last slot that you have, where you basically like swap in your last like main item with the power treads, and you can like put the power treads in your backpack when there's a fight that like breaks out. And in this case, because you are basically like stationed in the base, um, you could swap in the nullifier for your treads when you do take on a fight. So I think it's pretty clear that the enemies are going to win, even though you have a lot of like high ground defense with all of the abilities on your team. But there is still a window of opportunity for you. There is still like ways to win, even when your backs are against the wall. I saw this one replay of I believe Miracle playing Juggernaut. This is something that like you should definitely check out. You should see the way he itemized like in that game. You should see how he chooses to swap his items. Like he's obviously like six slotted, because it's the same like situation that you're in right now, where you're basically like playing against mega creeps. And his team was successfully able to like push the enemies out, like get successful pickoffs, and eventually um take down the enemy throne. I do believe that he had a divine rapier in that game. Um, so in in a game like this, where you're basically fighting against mega creeps, right? Let's say it goes on for a really long amount of time. In this game, ideally, what I would have liked to see you have gotten, uh, instead of um, instead of the halberd, which I see that you finally end up selling because you probably didn't see the value in it during these team fights. So I'm glad you finally did get rid of it. Um, Instead of the butterfly, um, going for the axe, going for the nullifier, eventually upgrading the axe into an axe blessing, giving you that additional slot, and then basically using that slot to give space for a divine rapier would have been like the ideal item build for you to go. So I'm just gonna fast forward this. Um, cool. So you do get the axe finally. That's good. Okay. Yeah. I mean that's what I expected. It is obviously very difficult to defend against mega creeps. So I understand like um that was kind of inevitable at some point. I wouldn't blame you. Um, I do think like it's the team as a whole, the way they played like mid game, um, losing a lot of map control in the early to like mid game can be really hard to like come back from. So I think in this game, like looking back, uh, I do think that it was a lot more important for you to like prioritize your farm like early in the game. Um, and I know we spoke about this, and this is something that you realize as well, like in hindsight. Um, so yeah, I think in this game, the things that you could have done differently probably is maybe just like prioritizing your farm. Also trying to like find farm in more like aggressive spots when you're obviously down. When I think when you guys like lost like your first set of racks in the top lane, you could have probably gotten like more aggressive wards placed around the map. And this is something that you obviously need to communicate to your allies. Um, and you need to be able to like understand this yourself as well, to like know the value in what that like gives you, and what you can finally like achieve like when you are able to place those aggressive wards. Obviously, like placing aggressive wards in a game like this allows you to pick off heroes like Terrorblade, who for most of the game will be farming either uh, will be farming their own creep camps, right? Um, what Terrorblades usually do are they position their main hero in their own camps, in their own neutral camps, and they usually send out the illusions to farm out the side lanes, the mid lane, like whatever lane that they can like send them to, push out those waves. And they would also, in some cases, try to get farm from your own neutral camps. So the easiest way to get like a pick off on a Terrorblade is by having aggressive wards placed in the enemy jungles. Um, and in addition to that, obviously I've mentioned this before during the replay, but having itemized a little better this game um, would have definitely like given you a higher chance of winning. I don't know if you would have been able to win, but by seeing the way that the enemies played, I do think that there's a strong chance that you could have actually won the game if you had itemized slightly differently. Going in for that early Saint and Yasha, I think um, made you less survivable in some of these team fights, right? Like you would have been able to dispel the Treant's overgrowth. You would have been able to escape some of these like situations a lot easier. Um, just having like in general, like being able to kite enemy heroes is a good skill to have. Um, and for some heroes, um, their skills allow them to do that, right? Like with, let's say, like White Spirit, for example, he has skills that allow him to kite heroes very easily. He has his Dissimulate, he has also his Astral Step with two charges that allow him to really kite heroes really well. But in this case, as a Juggernaut, like the only way you can kite heroes is by using your Blade Fury. Unfortunately, they do have a Legion commander in the enemy team, so even if you do use Blade Fury, you can get knocked down with the help of LC's duel. Um, and in addition to that, I believe like in the mid game, the co-op did end up getting an Orchid. So there was no way for you to disengage or um, disengage in fights or like run away from them once she did use her Orchid on you. Like there's no way to like dispel that, right? Until unless you get a Manta. Um, yeah, so maybe like rushing the Manta a lot earlier would have helped you with your mid game, made you more survivable, and maybe even like prevent the enemies from have pressuring you as much as they did. They were obviously a lot stronger than you at that point in the game. So even with a Manta, um, it would have probably still been difficult for you. But I think um, going for the halberd instead of going for a nullifier or an axe um, is probably what um, like didn't allow you to be as impactful as you probably could have been during some of these late game fights. So that's about it. So because this game did kind of go on for such a long period of time, right? Like because you did have to defend against mega creeps. Like the ideal item build that I would have liked to see towards the end of the game for you is having Manta, obviously, um, having an Ags Aghanim's ideally like upgraded into an Axe Blessing, um, having a Divine Rapier, Abyssal, which you had, um, what else? Um, Manta, which you had as well. Monkey King Bar, I think, is fine too. Um, the only item that I would have avoided if I was you was the butterfly. Um, so we have MKB, we have Manta, we have Battle Fury, we have Axe Blessing, Abyssal, so that gives you two more slots. So with the other slot, you can have a Divine Rapier and you can have a Nullifier um, with that sixth slot. Um, in terms of item progression, in order, it would probably be Battle Fury first, which you did get. Second, Manta Style. Third, probably Abyssal. That's fine too. And then fourth for me would be um, getting the nullifier. In this game, I don't think the I don't think rushing the MKB gave you that much value. Like I do think having the nullifier would have given you a lot more value and probably would have allowed you to like lock down some of these heroes that you were finding difficult to lock down, like the co-op in this instance. Also the Veno, who had a force staff and a Yules. Um, so fourth item would probably be a nullifier. And then fifth for me would be the Ags. Um, sixth the um would be the Divine, or the MKB in this case. You could go MKB Divine. Yeah, that works too. So yeah, that's about it. I hope that was useful. Obviously, I wasn't expecting the game to go on for so long. Um, and obviously didn't expect the replay review to go on for this long as well. But um, you don't need to you don't need to watch like the whole thing. You can like obviously skip towards the end because there is a long like waiting period in between. Because I was also just like trying to figure out exactly what you could have done better. Like during the fights, itemization, um, like um, also like figuring out like where you could have like placed yourself on the map when you were at a disadvantage. So yeah, that's about it. Hope that helps. Um, yeah, I think I will take a break now. Um, I will probably continue doing the other replay review. Maybe like half an hour, like an hour from now. So yeah, I'll be right back soon.